Welcome back to In Our Expert Opinion podcast. I am your host, Linda Schultz. And before we begin today, I have a very exciting announcement to share regarding the future of our show.
What is it, Linda?
Starting soon, my co-host Chad Mills and I will no longer be the only host of this podcast. Within the next few episodes, we will begin introducing new voices and perspectives, all from within our own firm. This new rotation of podcast hosts will help us cover all aspects of both land and commercial real estate as our company grows across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, and the Southeast. We're excited to step into this new chapter of In Our Expert Opinion podcast and bring you even more expert opinions and stories. Thank you all for supporting us. Now let's get into today's episode. David Hill, Regional Managing Director of our office in Fayetteville, Arkansas, sits down with President Tyler Davis to discuss David's transition into real estate, the unique dynamics of the Arkansas land market, and the firm's future plans for this region. We hope you enjoy.
In Our Expert Opinion podcast is brought to you by SVN Saunders, Ralston, Dantzler Real Estate, a full-service land and commercial brokerage with over $4 billion in transactions since 1996.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of In Our Expert Opinion podcast. My name is Tyler Davis, a little bit different voice than you're used to. We're mixing things up a little bit. Joining us today is my good friend and our Arkansas Managing Director, David Hill. David, how you doing?
TD, how we doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's a beautiful morning here in Florida, and we're happy that you flew in to visit us from the natural state up there.
Yeah, it's warm, it's humid, but we're here.
It is very much that here in Central Florida. So we're happy that you're here, happy that you're with our team. We're going to get into that a little bit, some of your background, what led you to joining us, and our friendship, and how this kind of evolved into you taking the mantle and running with it in the state of Arkansas. So we also have Chad Mills on the mic per usual.
I'm here.
Chiming in with some funny comments here and there, as he always does.
I may not give you as much crap as I give Linda, but we'll see.
That's all right. We'll see. It's first time hosting this, so yeah. Go easy.
All right.
All right, David. Yeah. So tell us, for our listeners who are just getting to know you, who you are, where you're from, a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So here in Florida, from Arkansas, but I'm actually from Florida, so from the Panhandle. Never really made my way down to the central part of the state too often, but grew up in Niceville, Okaloosa County, which is the best county in the state, in my opinion, in my expert opinion.
This is the right place to share your expert opinions.
Hey, for what it's worth. So yeah, grew up there, actually played junior college baseball my freshman year of college in Alabama, Muscle Shoals.
Another great state. Yep.
Great state, great part of the state too.
Absolutely. Lots of music that's come out of the Shoals.
Jason Isbell.
Was your team called the Swampers?
It wasn't. It was the Patriots.
It's a missed opportunity.
It was. Yeah. I need to talk to them about that.
Yeah. So what position did you play in baseball?
Played some first, some catcher. I like to say I played a little third, but I didn't really play third. I just,
took batting practice.
I wanted to. Yeah, exactly. I was a big fungo guy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So from there, kind of got a little burnt out with baseball after my freshman year. So my mom's side of the family is actually from Arkansas, and I got in-state tuition at the U of A. So that was what drew me to the University of Arkansas. Met my wife there my senior year, and when I graduated 2013, I actually got into oil and gas. So I moved to Houston. I was in Houston for a little over a year, and then got a promotion that took me to Dallas. Mm-hmm. And I was in Dallas for about 10 years until a couple months ago.
That's right. So I want to dig in on the oil and gas thing. What exactly were you doing in the oil and gas industry? I hear a lot of people say oil and gas, but there's a lot of different things that you could be doing within that space.
Oh yeah. So I worked for a company called NOV, National Oil Well Varco. They're a big manufacturer, and what I was doing was selling fiberglass production piping.
Gotcha.
So a landowner drills a well on their property. A lot of the time there's some corrosion They need corrosion resistant piping.
An oil well, not a water well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it is water wells if they're doing like some secondary recovery.
Gotcha.
Or like fracking or that kind of thing. But the corrosion actually comes from the salt water. So if you have a steel pipe, it's not going to last very long.
Right.
I sold fiberglass pipe. It's more expensive, obviously, but the life cycle is going to last.
Like you don't have
much
to
longer.
turn it over as quick. Yeah, gotcha. So you're convincing landowners to make a bigger investment on the front end. That
Yeah, well,
the long end.
not necessarily landowners, but more so like the
Corporations, business.
the oil companies that are producing the oil.
Gotcha. So then you were in oil and gas, started in Houston, which is where I was born, actually. And then, fun fact, and then you moved to Dallas and you worked there for that company for a little while. And then you were presented with a really neat opportunity and made a big jump early in your career.
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot, actually. If it wasn't for one of the worst crashes in the oil industry in the past 40 years that happened back in late 2015, early 2016, I'd probably still be in that industry. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I had a job that I don't really know how I got because I was certainly very unqualified for it. But I mean, people were getting laid off left and right. I come to find out later, the only reason I didn't get laid off is because I was the youngest person on our sales team by about 15 years.
So they needed some youth and energy and fresh
They needed
ideas.
cheap labor.
Oh,
Is
that
what they
too,
needed.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
making a fraction of
Good
what
point.
they were. So, but at the same time, I mean, I was like, man, it was stressful not knowing if I was going to wake up the next day with a job or not. So
Right.
I was actually, it's a circuitous route how I ended up where I did. But early 2016, I was starting to look for a new job, and I was actually trying to get into medical device sales. And I applied to this job board that posts medical sales positions. And apparently I applied to one where the recruiter called me and we started talking, and they're like, hey, we're actually trying to build our business out. This girl who called me, the recruiter, she had just started with the company a couple months before. And she was like, I think you might be a good fit for us. What if you came and interviewed with us? I don't know if you've ever thought about going into sales recruiting or not, which I hadn't. But I did always want to be a part of a startup and help grow a business from the ground up.
Right.
So that was appealing to me. I went in, interviewed with them, and it was 2 people at the time. But I felt led to Pursuit is the name of the company. And I bought into the vision where they wanted to take the company. And I was like, I think I can be a part of this. So I joined Pursuit in early 2016.
2016. Okay. So you were with Pursuit for 8 or 9 years, pretty much?
A little over 8 years, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do initially, and then kind of how did your role transform and the company grow and that sort of thing over that time?
Yeah. So when I joined, we really only had one client. And there's a backstory there. That client actually had gone through bankruptcy. So things were a little bit on the fritz, but
Welcome to a startup, right?
seriously. So I came on board with some prior sales experience, obviously from oil and gas, and a passion for sales and a skill set for it. So when I came on board, we're like, hey, if we're going to grow a company, we need some more clients.
That would help.
Yeah, that would help. We didn't even have a name for my title at the time, but it was like, hey, go drum up some new business. And it was a true grassroots initiative. Like, we didn't have systems, we didn't have processes. It was just go beat down some doors and try and find us some new clients, which what that looks like is essentially going to medical and or tech companies and saying, hey, you have hiring needs, you need sales reps, let us recruit for you. And it was on a contingency basis. So we were only getting paid if we were to get somebody hired for them.
Y'all were eating what you kill. basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just started cold calling, trying to find new clients, started getting some success. And it was a lot of trial and error. What works, what doesn't work. We found things that did work. They stuck. We found things that didn't. We canned those things. But over time, over the course of 8 years, we were able to grow the business. I think at one point we had close to 75 people or so. And then, so was able to build out the team, led the sales team, kind of created the sales position, I guess.
So you were on the side of selling third-party companies your services, basically. You weren't involved in the recruiting, headhunting part of it. It was more you were going B2B, basically saying, hey, Microsoft let us recruit for you, just as a hypothetical example.
Yeah, Microsoft would have been a dream client.
That would have been a good one.
They weren't one, but essentially, that's the thought. So our business had two sides to it. There's the recruiting function, and then there's a sales function. They work together a ton, but yes, I wasn't doing any of the recruiting. I was doing all the sales, and then also managing the account. Once we closed the deal on the front end, our salespeople, they were called account managers. So they're responsible for hunting and closing new business. And once they do, they're also the relationship manager essentially with the client.
Right. So digging in a little bit more on like how y'all did, how you executed on the growth plan, systems, processes, procedures. When you started, it sounds like there weren't any, and you kind of built those from scratch as you went. Can you talk a little bit about just how you implemented that, how you got buy-in from people that y'all hired, new people, into those systems and processes, because it seems like y'all really implemented a lot of those things very well to allow you to grow from 3 people when you joined to 75 kind of at the height?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And we stayed very, very lean for a long time. Still pretty lean. Even when I left, it was still pretty lean. But we didn't commit to investing in certain tech until we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that we needed it. So for probably the first close to a year that I was there, everything we did was on Excel spreadsheets. Not the most efficient, but it was the cheapest option.
Correct.
Over time, you start to, as you go through the business, you start to realize that certain things are becoming a bottleneck. And then we would just implement as we needed in that way.
So it was
more of, hey, this is hurting us. Let's fix it.
Let's find a solution.
Rather than this could be great someday. Let's get it now. We didn't operate like that. I think that helped us in a lot of ways because the way the business was set up, there's not really any predictable revenue. There's no recurring revenue. It is basically pro bono everything.
It's a good thing you're used to that, David, coming into this business.
It is. It's very different than real estate, but there are a lot of principles that I've already learned over the past couple of months that I think will apply. The fact that I'm used to that probably doesn't hurt because I'm sure some aren't.
Right. Correct. So you were there for 8 or 9 years. What led you to want to think about something else to do from a career perspective? What led you to landing on our company, Arkansas, moving from Dallas back to Arkansas?
Yeah. So a lot of life happened, and we fast forwarded, but a lot of life happened between that. So I mentioned that I met my wife at Arkansas. She's a couple years younger than me, and I definitely outkicked my coverage. If you saw her,
same here.
Everyone always looks at me like, how this doesn't make any sense, but I guess I'm a good salesman. So
clearly, yeah,
I know how to close, I guess. But anyway, so my wife and I had a baby girl. Her name's Hallie. She's awesome. She is 16 months old now. So we don't have any family in Texas at all. We have great community there. Miss those people a ton, and I will for a long time. But it got to a point where my wife, whenever we had the baby, she stopped working and stayed home with Hallie. And it just got to a point, I think we always kind of knew we'd end up back in Arkansas, but that sort of expedited the process.
Yeah.
We looked around, all of our friends with kids have family there to help.
It makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's somebody who, and we can get into kind of how we met and how our paths have, aligned in some ways over the years. But as somebody who was living in Birmingham thinking about starting a family, and then we moved, we realized we didn't have any family close by either, and kind of did that a little bit earlier before we had kids with the goal of having help when we did have kids, which now we're very fortunate that we do. We have a daughter who's almost 2, so same boat there. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about I guess Arkansas in general. So a lot of our listeners are probably based in Florida or based in Georgia, just based on our coverage area in the past and the content we've put out. So just give us a brief overview of like the state of Arkansas, some of the cool things about it, things that people don't know about the state, and we'll kind of get into the business operation side of it from there.
Yeah, totally. So if you don't know, it's a proud damn state.
Is that their saying, like state motto or something?
Yeah, it is. That's a hog thing. Not sure how many hog listeners we got, but the state,
Hopefully more over time.
we'll get more over time. We'll start pumping this out to some Arkansas folks, but the Razorbacks, everything's kind of centered around them. There's no pro sports teams. Everything is the Hogs.
I've always kind of admired that from a distance. Like there's very few places where there's like one main state institution, no pro sports teams. And, most people in that state love one team or want to go to school at one place. Like there seems like it's cool that there's like a unifying aspect to the state of Arkansas in a lot of ways.
Totally. You could be in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is probably 3 hours from Fayetteville, which is where the campus is. You're driving down the road and there's a muffler shop that's with a big hog on it. I mean, everywhere you go across the state, that's what it's like, which is cool. It's unique. Not many states are like that. It brings people together, and under the umbrella, a lot of times it's some long suffering.
We'll suffer together, right?
We suffer together. It's part of it. It's endearing in a way, in a really weird and twisted way. But yeah, so we love the hogs. In terms of the state geography, so I kind of sort of look at it in several different quadrants. So we're going to be based in Fayetteville, which is northwest Arkansas.
Which is where the University of Arkansas is for listeners who don't know.
It is. It's where the University of Arkansas is. Our office is actually going to be probably less than a mile from campus, which I'm really excited about. So that quadrant of the state is absolutely booming. That is home. So northwest Arkansas is home to several very, very large corporations, one of which being Walmart.
I've heard of them.
Heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty large. But it's cool. And this is also a unique part of the state is it's pretty rural, and yet there's still 3 Fortune 500 companies all within like a 20-mile radius. So you have Walmart there. You have Tyson Foods there. You ever had their chicken nuggets?
I have. My daughter wants me to heat them up every night in the microwave for dinner.
The dinosaurs or the?
Yeah, no, you can't do dino nuggets every night, Mary Callan. You got to mix it up. They are good, but we got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait, you can't do dino nugs every night?
Is that your meal plan there, Chad? Is dino nugs?
Listen, as a single guy, yeah,
Whatever gets the job done.
Air fryer, dino nugs, absolutely. Let's go.
Big Tyson food fan over there.
Oh, yeah.
Quick anecdote there. So I actually, in college, I interned with Tyson, as did my roommate, and we would just take home so much chicken. I actually worked on the beef and pork side. My roommate worked on the chicken nugget side, and our freezer and fridge was so chock full of meat, all these types of meats. So,
Dude, what a dream as a college kid
Oh,
just
it
to
was
have like a
perfect.
plethora of meat to cook and grill. And
so many meats.
It's not that bad of a dream at 32 either. I like a little bit more wild game in my diet, but that's all right.
Yeah. And then lastly, so there's also JB Hunt there as well, the logistics company.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of money, a lot of high paying jobs. And I would say probably since COVID, the cat's kind of gotten out of the bag in terms of just the quality of life there. It's beautiful. So Northwest Arkansas is also in the middle of the Ozark Mountains. Cost of living is very low, and people started figuring that out around COVID time. So they've just been moving there in droves.
yeah,
Similar, not too dissimilar to Florida.
Yeah, no, that's a great comparison. I mean, I've been now to Fayetteville twice in the last few months to help David and look at office space and things like that. And a couple things that really surprised me were how beautiful it is, just the topography, how much transition is going on from a land perspective up there. I mean, we took Dean with us a couple weeks ago, and he made the comparison of like, Tyler, this is like what Central Florida was 30 or 35 years ago, right? Like you're starting to see signs of kind of development that's already started and is not going to stop. And, there's mega industries there that are bringing jobs back. We can talk about Walmart bringing all their corporate jobs back, but when you have major economic drivers like that, available land and a reason for people to also want to move there with the university and the art scene. That was another thing that surprised me, was just how cool of a town Fayetteville was. I grew up in the middle of SEC country, Alabama fan, lived in Birmingham, went to Alabama for a master's. Have been to a lot of stadiums, and a lot of my friends have, but not many of them have been to Fayetteville just because it's been hard to get to historically. No offense, but the Hogs haven't always been the road game that people would circle to want to go to.
Fair. That's fair.
So in some ways, it's like Fayetteville it's very similar to Athens in some ways, like the restaurant scene, the art scene. Like the topography, like it was really, really neat. And I feel like it's almost a little bit of a kind of best kept secret in some ways. And that's probably going to change as that whole area continues to boom a little bit and the airport makes it more accessible for people to get there.
Yeah. Especially that direct flight from Tampa.
Yeah, it's wild. We actually have a nonstop from Tampa to Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport, which is a complete game changer.
No free ads, but shout out Breeze
Airlines. It was a breeze. It was easy, as cheap, and it was clean. It was great. So the rest of the state, though, so that's the northwest corner pocket. From a distance, it seems like Southwest Arkansas, and you can talk a little bit about regionally, but Southwest Arkansas seems very timber intensive. You can look at it on an aerial map and you see Northwest Arkansas, you see a lot of white and highways and development, and then just zoomed out, Southwest Arkansas is like dark green, which means timber.
Big timber there. Definitely. South Arkansas in general there's a lot of timber activity. Southwest Arkansas, there's even a lot of oil and gas as well.
Gotcha.
That's slowed down a little bit in recent years. I imagine it'll probably pick back up at some point. There's big natural gas shale play down in Southwest Arkansas, but that's just always going to be a cyclical industry in nature, But yes, South Arkansas, big timber, and then East Arkansas. So the Mississippi River literally forms the border between Mississippi and Arkansas.
And Tennessee.
And yes, Memphis. You're right. But all the way down the eastern part of the state is Mississippi River Delta, and it is prime farmland. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Stuttgart, Arkansas.
I have. Hear there's some birds there.
There are. So they're known as the duck and rice capital of the world. As I've been just getting to know a lot of people here at Saunders, everyone I talk to is like, when are we going to get a duck hunt set up in Stuttgart?
You start selling some property up there, and we'll get a corporate outing scheduled.
I mean, we got to talk to Dean about this, but if you like greenheads, that's where you go. Yeah. So there's a massive flyway there. But in terms of row crops, I mean, there's really no more fertile, at least rice land in the entire country than in the Mississippi River Delta on the eastern part of the state. So big ag there.
Yeah, it seems like outside of like Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville to Bentonville, all the way up to the Missouri pretty much, and then Little Rock, outside of that, it's just super intensive ag and timber pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in Little Rock, you're less than an hour from the Delta. So, I mean, ag pretty much runs the state outside of the northwest portion, which is, Walmart kind of runs that part. But it's a very diverse state in terms of different asset classes, which I think sets us up in a unique position as well.
Right.
Where there's, so I mentioned Tyson. I mean, poultry is big business there as well. So,
so talk to us a little bit about the poultry industry. It's something that our firm has not done a ton of, which is a little bit surprising. But I think as we move more further into Georgia, further into Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, that opens the door to having people that focus on that. And of course, being close to the biggest player in the industry doesn't hurt.
No, doesn't hurt at all. So Tyson will contract with landowners to operate their chicken farms, essentially. And those are changing hands quite frequently. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a big play for us as well in terms of just getting in with a lot of those poultry farmers. I think there's a big opportunity for us there.
Yeah, and then other products, like it's in some ways, I was telling somebody yesterday, it kind of mirrors a little bit about like our Central Florida team, like Polk County team in general, and that if we're based in Fayetteville, we can cover that whole Northwest corridor. David team up there can focus on transitional development land. a lot of residential development land, things of that nature. And then, utilizing some of the university connections, getting interns through the ag school, things like that. I think we can kind of round out the team by supplementing that with more ag-focused advisors based in other parts of the state. I mean, is that kind of the strategy, David?
Absolutely. You nailed it. So the goal is to have different people who specialize in different things in different strategic parts of the state. So we got a guy that, fingers crossed, we're going to get him on board. He's selling grain bin monitors now. He lives in Little Rock, but he grew up in Dumas, Arkansas, which is in the middle of the Delta. So deep relationships from an ag standpoint there. That'd be huge. There's another guy. We're going to try and find a guy in South Arkansas who knows the forestry business by the back of his hand, or her, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that the goal, we haven't identified someone yet from a poultry farm standpoint, but if you're listening to this,
give David a call. Yeah,
very interested in talking to you if you know that. So yeah, I mean, that's the goal for sure.
Yeah. And that's how we built the team here. And also in Georgia is, the Georgia team has a saying called like batteries included. And that basically means like, let's find people who are product specialists first and foremost, who understand an asset inside and out. Typically that means they've grown up in, on a farm or working in a certain ag industry, crop industry. And then we can train them up on the real estate side of it. But the hardest part is getting people to understand the ins and outs of those, crop types, those specialty asset classes. Okay. So, talk a little bit more about the state of Arkansas. One thing that I've not gotten to experience yet, and I'm excited to experience, and I've always heard that Arkansas has some of the best state parks in the country. Like the state park system is fantastic. Seems like there's a lot of land that has been put into public use, from the Buffalo River, from some of the Northwest Arkansas mountain biking trails, things like that. So, I want you to kind of sell the audience from a tourism perspective about some of the natural beauty and park side of Arkansas.
Well, you missed the fact that we also have a national park, Hot Springs National Park. But no, I mean, yeah, it is called the natural state for a reason, and it's just beautiful. And there's so many different types of topography. If you ever have a chance to float the Buffalo River, it's breathtaking. In terms of the mountain biking, and this is kind of a new phenomenon, but when I graduated college, to my understanding, now I'm not like a diehard mountain biker, but
you're probably more of a mountain biker than me.
Okay. I'm glad that you brought it out. I didn't want to go there on the pod, but I am. Yes, I'm definitely more of a mountain biker than you are.
I'm not great at riding bikes.
No, you're not. You're not, Tyler, but that's all right. That's why we love you, man. So when I graduated over 10 years ago from college, there wasn't really a mountain biking scene there. Obviously, there's natural topography in the Ozark Mountains.
Seems like a good fit for it. Yeah.
Oh, totally. But a little bit after I graduated, Walmart was trying to find strategic ways to attract talent to an otherwise rural and relatively unknown part of the country.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And their idea was to do so with arts, for one. So they built a world-class art gallery, Crystal Bridges, if you've ever heard of that. It's pretty cool. And they built incredible infrastructure from a mountain biking standpoint. And they've invested.
They also did, on the art front, they did the big amphitheater as well, right?
They did the amphitheater, Arkansas Music Pavilion is what it's called. But yeah, that whole corridor is pretty much a lot of it is funded by Walmart, but so was the bike trails. And I know some folks who are very into mountain biking, and I even know people. I actually have two friends in Dallas that have never lived. They both went to A&M, and they both moved to Northwest Arkansas because they love the mountain biking that much.
Wow.
So, I mean, people literally come from across the world to mountain bike in Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville area. So, yeah, I mean, the natural beauty off the charts. Come check it out if you've never been. It's a pretty cool place to be.
Awesome.
Hiking is incredible.
I'll stick to hiking.
Yeah, you probably should.
But no, I can't wait to get up there and explore some of the natural beauty of the state. Hopefully, tag that on to the back end of some work trips up there. So, do want to talk a little bit about Arkansas, the university. It seems like the university is, I think we heard that the university wants to grow to 40,000 students in the next maybe decade or so. I can't remember the exact timeline, but how's the university changed since you were there 10 years ago? We can talk a little bit about the Hogs for a second, Arkansas sports, some predictions moving forward, how hopefully they'll turn the corner here soon on the football front, and we can talk a little bit about Coach Cal coming in from basketball.
I can't wait for that. How has the university changed? Man, it's changed so much. So Dallas isn't that far from Fayetteville. It's about a 5-hour drive. And we did it so much that it just didn't really seem like that bad. So we would go up on the weekends all the time. And every single time we'd go up there, it'd be like, oh, that's new. That wasn't there. That wasn't there. That's a new apartment building. The housing they're just building housing everywhere. And a lot of that is because of the students.
Like mixed use type developments,
Yeah.
retail first floor. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a little bit sad because you're losing some of these things that you're losing are things that have just been there forever. But on the other hand, it's exciting because there's just a ton of opportunity there. So it's changed a ton. There's probably at least 6 or 7 new fraternity and sorority houses that weren't even there when I was there. But they have to be able to do that to support a growing student body.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've seen that at the University of Alabama over the last decade, just the amount of growth that happened there and the infrastructure that came with it. And University of Florida has certainly seen that as well with their growth from an education perspective and attracting new students, and all the mixed-use developments in all of these SEC towns and college towns. It's really fascinating that otherwise, without the university, there's no way that those deals would pencil and you'd be able to justify 8 or 9 story apartment buildings. But in Fayetteville, Arkansas, it works.
It works. And the university also is pretty generous in terms of giving out in-state tuition. I mentioned earlier that that's really the main reason why I went there. Texas people, Oklahoma people, pretty much everyone in bordering states get in-state tuition. So that attracts a lot of out-of-state students as well.
That does. And also, I'm sure you start bringing in kids from Texas, then that brings a lot of wealth and things like that to the area too, I'm sure, from a demand for residential housing, real estate investing, things like that. Okay, so moving forward, you're on board. We're super pumped about it. Happy to have you here with us. You're new to the real estate industry. You have tons of sales experience. What's your last couple weeks been like being on board, kind of learning something new? Are you treading water, you feel like you getting your feet under you at all? Kind of what do you think the goal is for the next couple months, and then as we start recruiting team members to join you?
Yeah, good question. And you kind of alluded to that earlier when you were talking about teaching people the real estate industry. I think that's probably not the hardest part of this. And that's why I was confident coming in that I could make this work pretty fast, because I have a lot of the skills that are the hardest to learn. It's the real estate part that feels like I'm sort of drinking from a fire hose, but the game's slowing down for me a little bit. So
That's right.
It's like Bryce Young, it was moving pretty quick for him.
A little early in the
Still is moving pretty quick for him, by the way.
But at some
I don't
point,
know how long he's going to make it.
At some point, it slows down. Right?
At some point, it slows down if you make it that long.
Yeah.
Like Baker.
Right.
It's slowing down for Baker.
Yeah, he's done great for the Bucks.
Yeah. It took him like a long time for it to slow down.
It did.
But that analogy kind of fits a little bit here, because it is starting to slow down for me a little bit. Just learning the lingo, learning how to carry an intelligent conversation from a real estate perspective. And I've loved it so far. I've been meeting with a ton of folks, which is what I love to do anyway. And yeah, I'm fired up, ready to get going here.
Yeah. Well, I've been shamelessly recruiting David for 4 or 5 years. Our background, we kind of got to know each other through some mutual friends. Really got to know each other about 10 years ago. We went out to Dallas, stayed with David for the first ever college football playoff game, which was Alabama playing Michigan State in Jerry World. Alabama won, of course, and we had a great trip and had a good time. And since then, David has been in our college football group chats and college football pick'ems leagues. And so we've just built a friendship. And when my wife and I first moved to Florida, it was 2 or 3 weeks before Labor Day, and David texted me and said, hey, Alex and I are coming to 30A Rosemary Beach with a bunch of our friends from Dallas. We just had a couple bail on coming, so we have an extra bedroom. Do you and Caroline like randomly just like want to come up and stay in the house with us, and y'all have a great time? Y'all like these people a lot. And so we did that kind of on a whim. And my wife didn't know Alex at all at that point, and I was still getting to know David and becoming friends with him. And so we had a great time. Did that trip 4 or 5 years in a row. Found ourselves in a story from one of those trips was we met the late founder of Zappos, and we found ourselves in a book that it was recently published, which is another story for another day. But anyways, we've just built a relationship up over the years. And originally it was me shamelessly recruiting David to join us if he were to ever move back to Florida. And that conversation changed over the years. But persistence pays off, I guess.
Here we are, man. It has been a long time coming. But I mean, from the day, I remember when you started first kind of putting this bug in my ear, it was something that I was extremely interested in from day one. And I'm just really thankful that it worked out and that we also got to do it in Arkansas, knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, do something that I know I'm going to really love. Mm-hmm. I geek out about land and
love the
golf.
Outdoors.
Land and golf, which if I can marry those 2 things, build a golf course in Arkansas, that's dream.
It's good topography for it.
It is. Just need to find some sandy soil, But yeah, no. So I'm really just thrilled that it was able to work out, and here we are. So.
Well, we're pumped to have you. We can teach people the real estate side of it, but we can't teach, entrepreneurship, high character, hustle, and you got all those things in spades. So we're really pumped to have you and excited about our growth into the natural state. Excited about what we can do in Arkansas, and we big suey.
And excited about Coach Calipari bringing a
that's
championship
right. Yeah,
back to
yeah.
Fayetteville.
He might. You certainly have the NIL money, the big corporate money backers up there who love the
Chicken
Hawks.
Man.
Yeah, the Chicken Man is making it work. So he's getting all sorts of players to Northwest Arkansas, and you got some great mountain biking trails up there. So you just got to go find some athletes who love to mountain bike, and you're going to get all the top players. So no, we're excited about it. Pumped to have you on board, and bright things ahead.